Welcome to So and So, brought to you by Bernina, Made to Create. I'm Meg Goodman, and you're about to enjoy a casual conversation with a special member of the sewist and quilting community. A conversation about how they got started, what inspires them, what excites them, and their connection to this community. Our guest today is Maelynn Wood, quilt pattern designer and owner of Mae Just Sew. A West Coast transplant who was born and raised in Maine, she finds great inspiration from the Pacific Northwest's natural beauty. She first learned hand quilting in a high school home ec class and can't remember a time since when she hasn't had a needle and thread close at hand. And she just started quilting seriously in 2021. She's known for creating patterns that blend traditional quilting techniques with a modern flair, with a goal of making her patterns approachable and that resonate with quilters of every level. Maelynn and her husband Ben have 2 children and a pup named Butter, who makes appearances on her Instagram. When not quilting, she can be found in her vegetable garden, her rose garden, reading the classics, or sipping a latte. And she loves to travel. Maelynn Wood, welcome to So and So.
Good morning, Meg. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, this is wonderful. I've been looking forward to this, and you've got some very interesting things to share with us. So I'm going to jump right in and say, how did you learn how to sew?
I learned how to sew at the kitchen table from the women that were in my life. It was very organic and natural, growing up watching other family members sew. I took
Hmm.
like you said, I took a high school home ec class for hand sewing, and we put quilt blocks together by
Hmm.
hand, which
Hmm.
if you've ever done that before, that's a lesson in patience.
Indeed.
Yeah. I've had no formal training, beyond being a professional searcher on YouTube for sometimes you're just I'm Meg, I'm a really visual learner, and
Hmm.
so sometimes just asking the question and pulling up a video, there's so many great resources,
Hmm.
for visual learners on the internet these days, so that's where most of my training has come from.
So let's go back to that kitchen table and the women who taught you to sew. Tell us about them and their influence.
Sure. My grandmother, Shirley, who I fondly called Mimi, she was a seamstress. And before I was born, she had a little shop that had fabric and notions, and she would do a lot of altering. And I was actually thinking through this. I don't know if this is still done, but my Mimi and my Papa, they were square dancers,
Hmm.
and she would make their costumes, and I hope I'm using the right word there, but their outfits. So she would have her blouse and her very full skirt with a petticoat underneath, and then she would make a coordinating button down, a very nice button down with all the trim for my papa, and they would be matching. And this was something that she really loved doing. And it's a fun memory for me to think about all the fabric that she'd have on the table and make these coordinating outfits. And I think I just liked playing with the petticoats, and just
Sure.
feeling that there was a sensory delight for sure.
Now, you have a very fond memory of spending time with your grandmother. Would you share that with us?
Sure. So I was a child of the 90s. And I remember having a Cabbage Patch doll when I was really little, and I think that I caught the tail end of that fad.
Mhm.
But I really came into this new fad in the early '90s of the my size Barbie, and
Mhm.
I wish I could see a raise of hands from the audience of being, oh yes, I remember that. I actually asked my own daughter, I'm like, do you know what a my size Barbie is? And she just looked at me like, no, mom, you're crazy. Um, but I had one, and I remember being about the same height as my size Barbie, and my Mimi would make, matching outfits for
Ah,
myself and my size Barbie, and these weren't just, like, cotton elastic waist skirts and a little button-down blouse. These were, like, full detailed bustled gowns
Hmm.
that she would make, and sometimes they'd have little gloves and coordinating hats and all the things. And I just that it's a core childhood memory for me of going over and seeing what she was working on next. So for long weekends at their house, Papa would call me over to the kitchen table and we would play cribbage. Is that I don't even know if that's still a game to be
Oh, it
played. And
is?
Meg,
Oh, sure.
as I think about it, I haven't even taught my own children how to play cribbage. Okay, I need to make a note.
All right, put that on your list.
I'm gonna
Absolutely.
put it on my list. But we would play cribbage and she would call me over. She'd want to fit a sleeve length or check the skirt length or something. So I'd bebop between playing cribbage and getting fitted alongside my size Barbie. So when you talk about core childhood memories, that is definitely in the mix.
Do you have any of those outfits still?
I really wish I did. Actually,
Uh-huh.
as I was thinking about this, I was going through old photo albums and trying to find pictures. And of course, nowadays we've got 50 pictures from yesterday that we just snapped on our phone. And it
Sure.
really wasn't so in the 90s. So I haven't come across any yet, but I am very encouraged to go on a hunt to see if I
Good.
can find one.
So, in your 20s, as an expected mom, you started sewing dresses and bonnets for your daughter. And then, when expecting your son, you started experimenting with jersey knits, making pants and beanies and things. Would you share with us what sewing during your pregnancies meant to you? Why was this important?
Yes. We we talk a lot in our community about sewing and quilting as a form of therapy. I mean, you can't scroll too far through Instagram without seeing the meme, I'm quilting because it's cheaper than therapy. And I really leaned into that without knowing that's what I was doing.
Sure.
But I was working full time. And so in the margins, in the evenings and on the weekends, I, dug out a sewing machine and just started sewing simple things. I have a little play mat that I made for my daughter even before I knew
Mhm.
that she was coming. And I have other fun little things that you can see my curiosity in some of these early projects,
Uh-huh.
and you can see my developing skill set as well.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
we look back at what we made 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
I it's cause to pause and smile and say, "Wow," and I was really proud of that. Um, but yeah, I really found joy in making little dresses and bonnets. I think, from my upbringing, my DNA, I was like, "Oh, when you have a little one, you make matching outfits." You do
Oh,
all these
sure.
things. This is what you
Uh-huh.
so making those, and I have in my closet still her dresses from her first 5 birthdays that I made for her. And I think my favorite one is the one from her second birthday. She wanted it to be all Minnie Mouse, so I had gone down to the fabric store and got this hot pink sequin material that could not have been comfortable. And I had this little bodice, and I don't know how you even do that for a tiny little 2-year-old, but I was trying to figure it out and made this full circle skirt with it and put a zipper in the back. And that zipper is something that I definitely look at endearingly and thought, good job, Maelynn, for trying. That was that was good. Um, but yeah, I have those and they're tucked away, and it'll probably be something that I try to gift to her someday, and she'll be like, "Wow, mom, thanks. You saved those all these years."
I can see that smile of gratitude now.
Yes. Yes. Uh, and then when my daughter was 4, we found out we were expecting again, and it was a boy, and and a few instant thoughts. One, I had grown up with just sisters, so a boy, I was like, what do I do with a boy? And I was like,
Sure.
Legos, Nerf darts, which has basically, been the game. Lots of Legos and lots of Nerf darts, but I wanted to sew for him, and I wanted to give him the same gift. Because when we make something for someone, our heart goes into it. And I wanted him to have those same things that my daughter had. But beyond making little blankies and loveys, I really wasn't sure. And at the time, I was looking, when you're shopping, and I was noticing these little jersey knit, they're like baggy jersey knit pants that were cuffed at the top and cuffed at the bottom for little boys. And I was like, I could do that. And so I started sourcing jersey knit,
Hmm.
and I had a friend who was due alongside me. She and I were actually only 4 days apart, which was so much fun to walk alongside someone. And we just started going down into all the Portland quilt shops, and we would just beeline for the jersey knit. That's all we were interested in. We were very focused women, and started buying all of it. And it was great because, I mean, you buy a half a yard and you can make a couple sets of leggings. And then we realized our scraps were big enough to make little matching beanies. So most of his baby pictures are a plain white onesie and the pants and the beanie that I made for him. And I was equally as proud. And I have a lot of those. I have a lot of those saved and put away as well. So,
So he will be gifted your creations as well someday.
oh yeah, whether he wants them or not. I think this is what we're supposed to do, right? As our children age, we
Indeed.
keep things and then we happily offer them to them, and they are supposed to say yes, I think. I think that's the way this is supposed to work.
I believe so. I believe so. So you were a very accomplished sewist, and then you started to quilt pretty seriously in 2021. What was the motivation for this?
I was doing what everybody else was doing in 2020 and 2021, and I was staying home. And so
Uh-huh.
I was home. Our whole family was here. And so I started thinking about all the things I could do to fill my time. And garment sewing felt a little less accessible to me. And I don't know if that's just because I wasn't sourcing well, or what. I also felt like I wasn't really in tune with online shopping quite yet. I was
Okay.
very, very used to, if you want fabric, you get in the car and you go to the store and you touch it all, and you talk with the lovely people at the cutting counter about what you're making. That's the process. And so then to be at
Mhm.
home and you're scrolling through pages upon pages, I was just, I don't, yeah, I was not really sure, but I had a stash of quilting cotton, and I was like, well, I could start cutting this up. And I was talking with my husband, and up until this point, all of my sewing machines that I had purchased from I had purchased from thrift stores,
Hmm.
and I'd make sure I had a power cord, and I'd bring it home, and we would get it working. And I had probably three or four that all had bits and pieces that worked, and I would just kind of make it all work. And it was at this point that we went down to a lovely Bernina dealer in Portland, and I bought my first Bernina. And I bought a 475 QE, and it's really cute and adorable when I think back to this point, because the QE was the quilting edition, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
at this point, I'm not even really a quilter, but for some reason, I knew somewhere deep in my soul that I was going to need that extra large bobbin someday.
Someday.
So someday. So I was armed with my very nice, very new Bernina sewing machine, and it went right on the kitchen table. And I just started cutting out squares and sewing them together. And was thinking, why in the world did I learn how to do this by hand? And I thought that's how it was done. Like, there was something in
Mhm.
my mind that was like, why did I get taught to do this by hand? There's sewing machines that can do this.
There's things for this.
Yeah, yeah. So I searched Pinterest for beginner quilt patterns, and patterns that I learned that you could do a PDF pattern, which meant that I would just purchase it from the online shop, download it, and I could print it off. And
Mhm.
then I had it right there in front of me. Um, and so I started doing that, and it quickly became my central creative focus.
Mm.
It was what I did, and it was therapeutic in a way that garment sewing wasn't simply because of the repetitive motion. It kind of allows you, once you get going, especially if you're chain piecing, your mind can wander just a bit. And that, that little daydream brain break that it offers is very calming,
Hmm.
very, very settling. And I really leaned into that quite a bit.
Well, in 2023, you leaned into it a little heavier than you had been because you took the pattern writing course from Elizabeth Chappell of Quilters Candy. You've since gone back as a small group leader and a mentor for that course and have continued education in Adobe products to further polish your pattern writing skills. So, first thing I want to ask, taking the initial course was a huge step for you. Why did you do that?
Sure, I think that's a great question. Taking the course, for me, it marked a shift from quilting as a hobby to considering that quilting could be a career.
Hmm.
And as scary and big as that felt, it also felt equally as natural. I've grown up with a sewing machine on the kitchen table, and now I
Mhm.
have my own kitchen table with a sewing machine on it. And why try to fight against what's naturally already happening? Um, it was my first intentional financial investment
Mhm.
in quilting as a business, and um, I had been I had been using a lot of free digital patterns
Mhm.
that I had downloaded from Pinterest, and there I started noticing some common things about patterns, and I started noticing patterns that I preferred over others, and started to kind of take note as to the why I preferred a specific type of quilt pattern over another. I really discovered that I am absolutely a visual learner. I really leaned heavily into the diagrams.
Mhm.
If there wasn't a diagram, I'm the type I will take the step number two, and I'll read it out loud very slowly and try to imagine it. I'm trying to create my own visual diagram, right?
Okay.
And so I started to formulate ideas of, if I were to write a pattern, this is how it would be done. And writing writing text, that can be done in a Pages document on your Mac, or whatever you're using, Microsoft. But creating diagrams was something that was, it might as well have been just a foreign language.
Mhm.
I had no idea where to start. And I was listening. Elizabeth has a podcast, and I was listening to her podcast, and um, she was talking about this course, and I had looked into it, and I was hemming and hawing about it, and then I really thought, but if I really want to know how to do this, I really need to learn how to use the software. So the software that was used was Adobe, and I've come to understand this is the industry standard in quilt pattern writing, is using Adobe
Mhm.
Illustrator and InDesign. And there are other applications
Mhm.
that you can use to accomplish it. But I have found that using Adobe, um, it allows me to seamlessly work with tech editors and printing,
Mhm.
and the printers that when you hand them this file, they just say thank you so much. So um, that was how I kind of got my feet wet. Actually, it was more like
Mhm.
jumping off a waterfall, if we're being
Yeah.
honest. It was more than
Yes.
just getting my feet wet. But I really quickly honed in on my focus, which was creating approachable quilt patterns,
Mhm.
and having those diagrams and learning how to write diagrams so that your text learner, your visual learner, your global learner, they could all open one of my quilt patterns and see, like, oh, I will follow this line of thinking in this
Mhm.
pattern, to be able to accomplish their own quilt tops.
So there is I can hear it in your voice, the deep love for quilting. But what's interesting to me is you used to refer to quilting as the dark side. and now are admittedly completely enveloped by quilting, and you have said you wouldn't have it any other way. Why the dark side?
I'm giggling and I'm really hoping that there's other people in our audience that are giggling alongside of me, but I think I had this really and quite terrible notion that quilting was just for a certain type of person,
Mhm,
at a certain type of age.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so, being young and fresh and vibrant, I was, why would I quilt? And Meg, I am giddy, excited, and happy to see how many quilters there are in their 20s, in their
mhm.
30s, in their 40s, and how they are not only they're not just quilting, but they're wanting to engage. They're wanting to be a part of the community. They're wanting to bring even the next generation on. The youth sewing community is growing rapidly, and I'm yeah, I just have to giggle. And do you ever look back at times in your life I just will forgive myself for the ignorant notions that I had at that time.
Too many
So
times. Yes.
yes, too many times. I in fact I have my Bernina serger is sitting out on my cutting table at the moment. I need to dust it off, but I am I am thinking about very seriously because I've already bought the pattern. So I guess I'm a serious thinker, but I'm going to
You're in it.
try.
You're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. I'm a little sweaty about it, but I'm like, I can do this. I'm going to practice using some muscle memory that I haven't done in a long time, but I would really like to make a quilted coat. And I know that I have the skills and the tools to do it. I have just been so hyper focused in the quilting world for the last number of years, but I saw a pattern recently and I was like, that I'm going to make. So I've got a quilt top all laid out. I've got the serger threaded, which that's half of the battle, right? So,
Indeed.
it's ready to go, and, I'm gonna try to make it and have it done for QuiltCon. And I'm going to QuiltCon this year, and last year, I had made a tote bag, and, that has since been turned into a pattern, which has been so much fun. And this year, I think I'm going to, because everybody makes something, and I think I'm gonna try to make this quilt coat for QuiltCon. So, if anybody's there and they see it, just come give me a hug and say, "Good job, you did it." So,
So we'll be
uh
looking for those hugs, and we're gonna be looking for pictures of that, on social media. So I'm gonna hold you to it.
oh, yes, I'm hoping to document that. Yes. Well, I've already taken the time and threaded my serger, so I think I'm invested.
Indeed. So, you can hear the love for your craft. Now I want you to tell us about your company, Mae Just Sew.
Sure. Mae Just Sew, the name itself, in the evenings back in 2020, my husband had asked me, "What are you gonna do?" And I'd say, "I might just sew. I might just sew." And so we that's it's kind of a play on words. My name's Maelynn, but a lot of friends in adulthood decided that they would just call me May, which is such an endearing name for me. So I love that. And so we called it Mae Just Sew. The brand's hope is to blend the modern and traditional. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with a lot of brand new types of quote blocks. I'm just trying to make them accessible, one, through the patterns, and two, just help people remember that there's this plethora of quilt blocks that they can use and that they can try, and to help encourage them to incorporate those into their modern quilting.
So in addition to, being a mom and sewing, what did you do prior to founding your company? Was there a profession you were involved in, or what did your life before Mae Just Sew look like?
Sure. I held a number of jobs, and the common thread through all of them was that I always sought out something that was involved in hospitality,
Hmm.
uh, welcoming people into a space. Uh, in college, I was a hostess, working my way through, and um, I enjoyed types of jobs where if someone was coming into a building or into a situation, into an appointment, I was their first contact that would help make them feel comfortable, and welcome, and at ease. And I still feel like that's my that's my job through Mae Just Sew. I really, really enjoy seeing a person visually relax and visually be calm. I love having people into my home during the week and welcoming them in and seeing them just settle in and sit back and take that big deep breath. And I think that it's my hope that Mae Just Sew a is a pattern company that also does that for people, even though I don't get to see it. I definitely feel it through the community that I have on social media, and people that will send notes after making a quilt top on my website. They'll thank me for some of the specifics in the pattern, and I'll just nod and know that sense and that feeling really resonated.
Hmm.
Um, I want people to, through what May Just So, feel like they can, and that they don't have to be anybody but them to do that and to accomplish that. Um, I think that the quilting community on social media is such a fantastic thing. I think it's really fun to be a part of. And I think at the same time, I think it's a very small representation of the sewing community. I think for as many people as you see show up on social media, there's 10 times that amount that aren't on social media that are creating equally, if not more, beautiful and intricate and thought provoking pieces of art through quilting. I think it's important to stop and recognize that. And those people uh, are still buying. They're buying your patterns. They're buying my
Hmm.
patterns. They're buying the patterns that the people that are on social media are creating. And so I want to make sure that the listeners here know that we know that that there's people out there without having to log into social media, that their art matters just as much, if not even more, that they're reaching just as wide of a community from their own kitchen table,
Hmm.
without all the fancy, right? Without all the fancy pictures and blog posts and Instagram reels and all of that, it's still just as beautiful, if not even more.
And to take that a step further, you've talked about the three main reasons why you quilt. Would you share those with us?
Sure. I came up with the three reasons why I quilt about a year and a half ago, because I had been asked my why by a friend who had said, why, and I realized I couldn't articulate that very well, and so I jotted it down, and I've just kind of kept it close. I have it actually jotted on a sticky note in my sewing room. My first reason is that quilting is art that you can use. I actually recently saw um, on social media this thought of 2026 being about functional beauty. And I literally like jumped up and I said, "Yes, that's my one. That's my point one. That quilting can be functional beauty. Your quilts, they're draped on the back of a chair, they're over a couch, and then people come into your home and you wrap them up in them, whether they want to be or not." And
Hmm.
you're just like, "Oh, did you see this new quilt?" And so that functional beauty aspect of quilting, I want to be a part of that, and I want to make sure that that continues.
Hmm.
Um, number 2 is the community, the quilting community. Um, gosh, it's so welcoming, and it's so vast. There's clubs, and there's guilds, and there's sew-alongs, and there's Facebook groups, and there's Instagram followings, and there's blog posts, and there's groups of ladies that meet weekly in granges or in church buildings, and they're just quilting groups. You don't really have to travel far to find the quilting community. And I just really love the vastness of it and the wide reach that it
Hmm.
has. And I want to be a part of that. And then three, quilting, because of the opportunity it has given me from going from a hobby to a career. And I want to continue in that as well. There's many paths to create your hobby into a career. And I've just chosen the quilt pattern writing
Hmm.
vein at this time. And who knows what the future will bring there. But those are my three main reasons that are my why, or you could say are grounding to me, that bring me back. When I've, had my seam ripper out for the fourth time in 30 minutes. Why exactly why exactly are we doing this?
I
Let's
see
remind
hands being
ourselves.
raised out there now too. So I think people
I
can
hope
relate to
so.
that. I hope so. So
Yes.
I'm going to shift gears here. There's many things that you do outside of your sewing life. You love to garden vegetables and roses. You love to read the classics, sip
Mhm.
lattes, and you love to travel. And you have said that your kids' school breaks were full of adventures. Can you share a few of those with us?
Oh, sure. Yes, we definitely highlight the breaks when we can all be together. We really, really do enjoy that time. Okay, some favorite adventuring. Well, we live in the Pacific Northwest, and people come here to vacation and to see all the beauties. So we don't have to go too far. We love to travel down the Columbia River Gorge.
Mm.
Um, on Highway 84. It is beautiful. It really doesn't matter what time of year you're driving down. It's beautiful. Drive by Multnomah Falls and into Hood River and watch all the kite surfing on the river. And um, my son likes to tell me, he goes, "Someday I'm going to do that." I'm like, "Okay, well, that looks that looks adventurous." So we love to stay local. We also do like to pack our suitcases and travel, and it would be awfully remiss, I believe is the word, for me not to suggest that people travel to go visit New England and specifically Maine. I've run
Mhm.
across so many people. That's always a place I've wanted to go. And is it worth it? And yes, it is. In fact, just fly into Boston and just rent a car and just meander all the way up through New Hampshire and hit the beautiful coast and then go into Maine, and it's beautiful. Try to do it in the fall. It's really, really lovely. And I feel like it's a piece of space that really hasn't been touched too much. The footprint still is not as heavily trodden as some other areas of vacationing. And it's almost like stepping back in time a little
Mhm.
bit, that you can almost just feel the peace that's there. And then of course, we've done the loud crazy vacationing. We
Mhm.
finally succumbed last year and took our kids to Disney World, which has been their lifelong mission. And we told them we'd take them one time. Pick a time, we'll go one time. And
Uh-huh,
so we
and you
we did
did it.
that last we did the whole Disney thing, and it
Uh-huh.
was fun and it was great. But when we were talking to our kids, we have a little family meeting at the beginning of every year, and we talk about what our hopes are and goals and dreams, and we do that at the beginning of the year so that we can prepare for that. And um, interestingly enough, the kids both chose the calm path for vacationing this year. They would like us to take them back up to San Juan Island, which is
Mhm.
a favorite. We've been up a couple of times, but you actually take a ferry. You drive onto the ferry boat and you take a ferry over to Friday Harbor in San Juan Island, and you drive off and you have your vehicle there to see all the different amazing spots. But it's one of the whale watching capitals I of I don't know if it's the US or the world, but you
Mhm.
can literally just sit on the shoreline and watch the whales, which is I that is our dream vacation right there. It's just sitting in that stillness. And I always bring a quilt or two or three with me on these kinds of vacations because I'm like, oh well, we got to get a picture here. We got to get good quilt pictures.
Sure.
My
Have
my family is really in tune to this, and they've stopped asking, like, "Where's mom?" Like, if we're going through an airport, the carpet, the tiles on the wall, the pictures that they have, I'll stop and take photos, and it used to be that "What is mom doing?" And now they just know. They're just like, "Oh, she's just, she's documenting."
well, you've opened this up perfectly for my next question, which is, have any of these adventures influenced your work? And it sounds like they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, even beyond the actual patterns, the travel has opened up my vision for texture and color and really helped me decide what is truly me. Because there's things that you see that excite you. There's you go to a store and you see a clothing item. And you're like, wow, that's really fun, but you're not necessarily going to buy it and put it on. It's not really you.
Mhm.
But you would go to a store and and then you see something else. You're like, oh, but that is innately me. That's me through and through. And so I think travel and visiting so many different places and with that, different scenery has really helped me learn what is truly me, and versus what is beautiful and fun. And I've just really appreciated learning that about myself, and being able to put that into the quilt patterns, whether it's how the pattern is assembled or the fabric that I chose to use for it. Yeah.
Maylin, what's next for you and what's your dream?
Ooh. Okay. Well, next is this quilt coat that I'm
Mhm.
gonna have done for QuiltCon, right? I'm
Sure.
kind of a one day at a person. I'm a one day at a time kind of
Uh-huh.
person. And, I like to kinda change my plans, much to everyone's dismay. So I will tread softly here. I do have a quilt along planned over on the We All Sew blog for early spring. Really excited about that. A little sneak peek just in case you're wondering what is that going to be all about. We're going to be working on hourglass blocks, and we're going to get really, really good at hourglass blocks. And I'm really excited to engage with the We Also community over on the Bernina blog.
Mhm.
Um, and then I have 3 patterns that are nearly ready to go for 2026. So, I'm very excited about what 2026 has, and, I'm working consistently on getting all of my patterns from PDF format into booklet format.
Mhm.
And a goal that I have for 2026 is to start engaging more with quilt shops and start getting some of my booklet patterns into quilt shops. So, hi, quilt shop owners. Nice to meet you.
We have talked about a lot today. Is there any question I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Meg, would it be okay to just give a little bit of encouragement to our listeners today?
Yes, please. Perfect.
Great. Okay. I recently had this experience at a fitness class that I was taking, and it's a mix of yoga and Pilates. And so the instructor had put us in this posture that I felt really wobbly in. It was not
Mhm.
you were not flat on 2 feet, and I felt really, really wobbly, and the instant feeling was discouragement, right? Like, "Oh, man,
Mhm.
everybody else looks, like, really calm, and I'm over here kinda, sweaty and a little wobbly." And the instructor had mentioned that we need to strengthen our instability muscles. And the only way to strengthen them is to become unstable. And we need to strengthen these muscles so that when we come upon a situation in life where we're unstable, like, maybe tripping over a curb or getting bumped into or something, the muscles, the instability muscles can engage and be strong to stabilize us.
Mm-hmm.
And Meg, I think I audibly gasped in that moment because I felt so close to that in what I'm doing in my day to day. And I just want to encourage quilters to try something new, to grab the pattern that feels just a little beyond you, to take that next project that's been sitting there, but you've just felt really challenged by, because it's in that instability and it's in that challenge that you will create these new muscles of feeling stronger and feeling more empowered to then live in that space, and then maybe even take another challenge further down the road. So I hope that that resonates with even just one person out there. But I just, in that instability moment of my actual physical body feeling unstable, I just instantly knew. I was like, oh, that is an encouragement for me to help feel encouraged in the instability, or to feel encouraged in the challenge. Because if we never really challenge ourselves or our skills, we really won't have the muscles developed in our nature to take it on when maybe we're forced to. So that's my encouragement today.
I think those are wonderful words of encouragement to leave with those who have joined us today. So thank you for that. And this has been just so much fun, Maelynn. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I want to thank you for sharing your story with us today. Our listeners, I'm sure, would like to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, please do. You can reach me through the contact form on my website, which is mayjustsew.com. Also, I am pretty active over on Instagram, which is my handle is Mae Just Sew with a period in between. So may.just.sew. And I would love to chat with you over there. And that is also where I'll be documenting my next sewing project and the upcoming quilt along with Bernina. I'll be talking about that a little bit ahead of time over there as well.
And just to clarify for everybody, May is spelled Mae.
Mae. That's the correct way to spell May. Yes.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you so much again for joining us today.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you, Meg.
Well, there you have it. Another story about someone just like you. Someone for whom sewing and quilting is so much more than a hobby. It's a way of life and a connection to something bigger. If you know someone you think has an outstanding story, a story that should be shared on this podcast, please drop me a note to meg@soandsopodcast.com or complete the form on our website. Be sure to subscribe to, review, and rate this podcast on your favorite platform, and visit our website, soandsopodcast.com, for more information about today's and all of our guests. That's SEWANDSO podcast.com. And finally, I want to thank Bernina for making this program possible. I'm Meg Goodman, and I look forward to you joining us next time on So and So.